What if the beggar you ignored on the street was the only person who could save America's top general? It was a chilly evening in Washington, D.C. The Pentagon's marble walls glistened under the pale streetlights, and a motorcade slowly pulled up to the side entrance. General Richard Patterson, one of the nation's most powerful military leaders, stepped out of his armored limousine. His chest carried 4 gleaming gold stars, and his posture radiated the confidence of a man accustomed to respect and authority. But that night, respect would be the last thing on his mind. From the shadow of a nearby alley, a ragged figure emerged. She looked like just another forgotten soul of the Capitol. Messy hair, torn jacket, dirt smudged across her face, and a shopping cart rattling behind her. General Patterson barely glanced at her. He had seen hundreds like her on the streets, people invisible to those in power. That was when she grabbed his arm. "Don't speak. Just listen," she whispered urgently, her voice raspy but firm. Patterson scowled. "Let go of me, or I'll call security," he growled, trying to pull away. But her grip was strong, and her eyes burned with an intensity that froze him for a split second. "There's a laser sight on your chest," she whispered. "Sniper, across the street, second window from the left. 3 shooters. Move with me now." For the first time in decades of service, Patterson felt a chill crawl down his spine. This wasn't the rambling of a street beggar. Her tone was precise, sharp, military, the voice of someone who had seen combat. The woman pushed him gently toward the wall, using her own body as a shield. Patterson's instincts kicked in, scanning the windows, and sure enough, he caught the faintest red glint reflecting against the glass. "Who are you?" he asked quietly, his contempt replaced by wary curiosity. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she guided him along the wall with practiced precision. "Do you know Colonel James Mitchell?" she asked, never taking her eyes off the distant windows. Patterson stiffened. Mitchell was his most trusted ally, his right-hand man for over a decade. The woman continued in a low voice. "I overheard him 2 hours ago at a cafe on the corner. He and 3 others planned your assassination tonight. They think you know too much about illegal arms deals with the Mexican cartels." Patterson's pulse quickened. Every word struck with chilling accuracy. This woman wasn't delusional. She was informed. By the time they slicked through a side entrance into the Pentagon, Patterson was no longer resisting. He studied her more closely. Behind the layers of dirt and the haunted eyes, there was a discipline he recognized. "Who are you really?" he demanded, once they were inside. She stood straighter now, no longer hunched like a homeless wanderer. "Major Diane Santos, U.S. Special Forces, retired on disability 3 years ago." Patterson blinked. The name was vaguely familiar. "I was declared unstable after Afghanistan," she continued, her voice steady. "Officially, I suffered a breakdown. Unofficially, I discovered my unit was selling weapons to terrorists. When I tried to report it, accidents happened. The kind of accidents people don't survive. I disappeared, and I realized something. Being invisible has advantages." Patterson's eyes narrowed. "So you've been living on the streets, gathering intel?" She nodded. "For 2 years, pretending to be a beggar, while listening to men who thought I was nothing. They talked freely, dropped documents in the trash, even bragged about their bank accounts. And tonight, I heard enough to know you were the next target." 20 minutes later, they were inside a secure bunker. Patterson's trusted aides surrounded him, but he looked only at Diane. She listed names with military precision. Colonel James Mitchell, Major Robert Hayes, Captain Linda Torres. Lieutenant Colonel Franklin Moore. They meet every Thursday at Cafe Alexandria. Same corner table, always at 2:30. Patterson's stomach twisted. These were officers he had trusted for years. Just then, an assistant burst into the room. "General, Colonel Mitchell requests an urgent meeting. He says there's a security threat concerning you." Diane smirked bitterly. "He's going to paint me as crazy. He'll claim I'm unstable, that nothing I say can be trusted. Let him come. It's exactly what we need." Moments later, Mitchell strode into the room, tall, imposing, his uniform spotless. He wore the smile of a man certain of his power. Behind him came 2 military doctors and a psychiatrist. "General Patterson, thank God you're safe," Mitchell said smoothly. "I understand you had an encounter with Major Santos. She's unstable. After Afghanistan, she developed paranoid delusions. She imagines conspiracies everywhere." The psychiatrist nodded gravely. "I've treated similar cases. Veterans sometimes create elaborate fantasies to cope with trauma." Diane sat silently in the corner, her shoulders slumped, eyes downcast, playing the role of a broken woman. But then she lifted her gaze, and her voice sliced through the room. "You walked past me dozens of times, Colonel. You even stepped on me once while rushing to your cartel meeting. Remember last Thursday? Corner table, Cafe Alexandria. You, Hayes, Torres, and Moore, discussing a shipment of modified rifles. Value, $2.3 million. Your cut, 15%. Mitchell froze, his practiced calm cracking. "She's delusional," he snapped. But Patterson noticed the sweat on his forehead. Diane stood slowly, her posture no longer broken, but sharp and commanding. 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days. That's how long I've been recording every conversation, photographing documents, mapping your meetings. You thought no one was watching, because who would listen to a homeless woman? But arrogance makes men careless. From her bag, she pulled a small military-grade recorder and a folder stuffed with papers. Emails, bank transfers, even your plan to silence Captain Jennifer Walsh when she tried to expose you. You reported her death as an accident in Afghanistan. I have proof it wasn't. Patterson's heart clenched. Walsh had been one of his best officers. Mitchell's voice rose. "This is nonsense. She's fabricating everything." Before Patterson could respond, the door opened and a man in a dark suit entered. "Agent Marcus Davis, FBI," he introduced calmly. "We've been monitoring this room for the last 20 minutes. Everything has been recorded." Mitchell's face drained of color. "You can't do this!" Mitchell shouted as Davis approached with handcuffs. "It's her word against mine." Diane's cold smile returned. "No, Colonel, it's your own words. You just confirm knowledge of operations that officially don't exist. That's not something an innocent man could do." As the FBI agent read Mitchell his rights, the colonel's eyes burned with hatred. "You destroyed yourself to ruin me," he spat at Diane. She stared back without flinching. "I destroyed myself to bring justice. For Walsh. For the soldiers who died because of your greed. For the families who never knew the truth." The room fell silent as Mitchell was led away in chains. Within hours, the network began to collapse. Hayes was arrested at his home. Torres was caught at the airport trying to flee to Mexico. Moore, overwhelmed with guilt, took his own life. Calls poured into Patterson from the Secretary of Defense, the White House, even investigative journalists who somehow already had details. Diane revealed why. "For months, I've been feeding information to Marcus Thompson at the Washington Herald. He's been chasing military corruption for years. Tonight wasn't just about saving you, General. It was about detonating the truth where no one could bury it again. Patterson was stunned. This woman, discarded by the system, had orchestrated one of the most effective intelligence operations he had ever seen. That evening, a final surprise walked into the bunker. A tall woman in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair and commanding presence. Senator Elizabeth Morrison, she introduced herself, chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Patterson's jaw dropped. For 18 months, Diane explained, Senator Morrison has been my silent ally. She provided resources, cover, and ensured that when the evidence surfaced, it wouldn't. The senator added firmly, sometimes the best investigators are the ones no one notices. Diane has done this country a service greater than medals or ceremonies could ever acknowledge. By dawn, Mitchell and his conspirators were in custody. The Pentagon buzzed with chaos, but the truth was out. General Patterson, humbled and shaken, turned to Diane. "You could have stayed invisible. Why risk everything to save me?" he asked. Her eyes softened, though her voice remained steady, because justice matters more than survival. I've been invisible long enough. Soldiers died while men in power grew rich. I couldn't watch another one fall, even if that soldier was you. Patterson nodded slowly, realizing the depth of his debt. That night, Diane walked out of the Pentagon the same way she had entered, unnoticed, her shopping cart rattling behind her. But she was no longer invisible. She had shaken the very foundations of the country's most powerful institution. And somewhere in Washington, as the sun began to rise, the question lingered. How many more truths hide in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to listen to the voices we choose to ignore? Never underestimate the people you overlook. Sometimes, the person society ignores carries the truth that can save us all. Sinbadi.